Well, I think we're just going to do a quick overview of our agenda for the rest of the day. We've already covered our welcome and introductions and our co-op history.
And then we'll just have a quick sort of reflection about the last 50 years here at the co-op. We'll certainly meet our, and then we'll also have, prior to that, Christina talk a little bit about the impact of what the co-op has had, especially during our more recent challenging times.
After that, we are going to meet our wonderful board candidates. We have two of our board candidates here in person and a video from our third candidate who wasn't able to be here today. And then we are going to have one of our board members show the winner of our Community Service Award. And we have a lovely video from that Community Service Award winner as well.
And then typically, certainly at member meetings, we will talk about the state of the business, especially over the last year. As well as then open up to Q&A and then have a closing as everyone spills out, hopefully, to the outside as we celebrate the 50th with really the broader community and the public. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Christina.
Thank you all very much for being here today. And as I mentioned earlier, I joined the board in January 2020 with Jody, who's here today. And we joined in January 2020 and attended an in-person meeting, and then the whole board went virtual 2 months later. But it has been such a wild ride and a really great opportunity to feel like I was being shepherded and buoyed by all of our past and present board members. And it's been really, we have such an excellent board right now, and I'm just so grateful to all of the time and effort that they put in to supporting and providing a governing structure for our co-op and all the past board members as well throughout the co-op's many iterations. So John and staff asked me to talk a little bit today about my day job, which is at the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, where I'm currently the Assistant Director of the Agricultural Development Division. So our work includes things like grant making, marketing, collaborating with other organizations around the state, and helping connect businesses and farms to vital resources. And that helps us to support an agriculture and food system that is ideally accessible to all Vermonters, sustains and strengthens our working landscape, and really supports our communities. So when I think about it, I feel really grateful that the work that I do on a day-to-day basis is so closely aligned with the co-op's global ends. But as you know, it's been a remarkably difficult year for Vermont farms and Vermont agriculture. Earlier this month, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack declared all 14 counties in Vermont primary disaster areas due to the flooding and severe weather in July. I won't spend a lot of time on stats, but farmers have reported to us over $16 million in losses and damage on their farms across the state, and that's affected over 27,000 acres. And we know that's underreporting because those are only the figures that Vermont farmers have reported to us. And it was a rough year in other industries as well. Maple production had a really tough time this year, and we know that many dairy farms in Vermont struggle when they receive milk prices that are lower than their cost of production. I also had the privilege of meeting yesterday with former Vermont Secretary of Agriculture, Roger Albee. He's actually working on a new book about Vermont agriculture going all the way back to the 1700s. And he reminded us that Vermont farmers are always reinventing themselves because while it's been a really challenging year, there have been a lot of challenging years, challenging decades, and challenging centuries in Vermont agriculture. But that also means that the support that we provide to farms is really critical. So I want to thank all of you who have rounded up to rally for flood relief at the Register this month or made direct donations to those organizations that are supporting farmers and businesses affected by these disasters. We often hear that Vermont farmers can't compete on price. Instead, they compete on quality and value. Vermont is a really small state, as you know, but we actually serve an outsized role in providing food and agriculture, other agricultural products to our neighbors in New England and throughout the Northeast because we've kept land and agricultural production and because our producers and farmers provide such high quality products. So when we shop at the co-op, we can select from over 3,000 local and made in Vermont products, and That accounts for a stunning 40% of all of our purchases. And that means that we, as cooperative members and consumers, truly value our agriculture and food system and the value that those products bring into our lives. So I want to close today, before we get into the rest of our presentation, with highlighting 2 of the 7 cooperative values that co-ops around the world operate by. The 7th co-op value, as many of you know, is concern for community. And as we talk about the co-op's achievements over the last 50 years, we can see our concern for community demonstrated in so many ways, from the Food for All program to co-op seedling grants to the thousands of hours of member work that members put in last year. Today we're celebrating a huge milestone, but as you saw in the history presentation, it's actually one of many milestones in what I think of as kind of the third in a series of milestones we've had over the past 2 years, with the opening of the downtown store, 20 years as a hybrid co-op and Burlington's only downtown grocery store, and 5 years as a 2-store co-op. So today we are celebrating 50 years, and many of you know that finally the very first cooperative principle is voluntary and open membership, and that's what makes the co-op so special. Ultimately, the co-op is not just a grocery store, it's a community organization that you can join, be a part of, and shape into the future. And what's amazing about that is whether you were an original buying club member, a member in 1973 when the co-op first formed, or you just joined today, you're a part of that story. And we all get to be part of what shapes the co-op for the next 50 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina, for that. So just really following on from what Christina mentioned, and in just a moment, we have put together a short video that we wanted to share with everyone, because it's really hard to sort of express the feelings, the experiences, and also the views of what really the co-op has done over the last 50 years. But I just wanted to take a moment to share maybe a few words that I think have come to mind, certainly for us at the co-op, as we've looked at the last in the first 50 years of the co-op. As Christina mentioned, and I've even spoken to some members today when they've talked about coming to the store, and they say, or stores, and they say, you know, John, it's really not as if I'm going shopping. I'm actually going to connect with people. It's really a gathering place. And I think that's really important to note. Yes, we run a business. Yes, we are mission-driven. But ultimately, our goal is to serve the community. And I think the co-op throughout the last 50 years has really stayed true to that service. And so the 3 words that have come to mind very quickly around the last 5 years has been around community. And as Don had mentioned, and I think many longtime members will know, there's really quite a bit of, I like to call, grit, determination, and tenacity. And the third area is around gratitude. I think the world needs more gratitude. So as part of that, you know, those are the 3 words that come to mind. And then as we think about the next 50 years, those words still remain true. We need grit. We need tenacity. We need to be thinking about community beyond ourselves. The I, we, us. But in addition, and I know we talk about being welcoming, but we've continued to, and I think need to evolve our work around how do we really become more inclusive. Recently at the GM meeting that I was just at, we were talking about that, how we say we're welcome to all. And obviously, you know, in the English language, it's very common to say, oh, you are welcome to join us. And it was interesting because we had a person who works in the Jedi space, or these days the ideas space, around sort of social justice, in that if you think about the word welcoming, there's a politeness to it. You're welcome to join us. There's a politeness. Maybe if we invited people more, it's a slightly different feel. Right? So as we think about inclusivity and what that actually means to different people, different cultures, and how we invite people, just really to think about that as we move forward. I think the one other area is around having empathy. We've seen people become less patient, less tolerant, less understanding and being respectful of our differences versus trying to find the common elements among each of us. We often talk about leadership requires great empathy. So I would ask all of us, and certainly myself as a reminder, to say, how can we continue to be empathetic, to understand, and to be patient? And I think that will be key to us as a co-op and as a community to continue to thrive and really be of service. And with that, I'd like to move over to a wonderful video that our staff has put together. So with that, over to you.
The co-op has impacted me in several ways. It taught me not only a whole new way of feeding my family and thinking about food, but it also provided me a community.
The co-op's already put a lot of work into kind of flattening any hierarchical structure that exists in our society, and I think that this co-op works really hard to make sure that the folks who shop here or who use not just the supermarket itself, but the space around it, feel like it's a part of the community and not kind of exclusive.
First thing is the people I work with, I think, has always kept me motivated to come to work every day. And I guess what the co-op stands for and our values and the local impact that we have on the food system and the feeling of the accomplishment that comes with the work that I do.
I took a pierogi course once, and I learned how difficult it is to make a pierogi. I also recently took a course on kimchi. That was fascinating, and I always thought that was a much more complicated process than it was. And then it was great to talk with other people around the table. The cooking courses, the classes, I think they really build community. And they also expose people to new things.
About 2 years ago, my father passed away. And I realized then that I either had to go much faster, like speed up and throw myself into things, or I would have to stop altogether. And this role opened up at City Market, and I applied for it, and I got it. And I started this job really shortly after his passing, but being able to come into work every day with a group of people who were compassionate, kind, present, and committed to really making a difference for our community, for our local food system, and for our local economy, made that time feel really meaningful and made me feel connected to the ideals that my father would want carried forward when we think of him.
From the beginning, it's been a part of sort of our lives as a family, but also sort of my life in terms of my professional life, working for the city of Burlington. One of the things I've sort of really felt dedicated to do was to create a supermarket for downtown Burlington. And so one of the things I did is come back to work for the city of Burlington in about 2000 and began to work on securing a site for a supermarket. And Onion River Co-op rebranded itself to be City Market and ultimately worked with them to create an opportunity for them to be a downtown location on city-owned land. And I think, as far as I could tell, has been highly successful at that site and other sites as well.
Really, the word that comes to mind when I think of City Market is community. This is an organization made up of people that want to make the world a better place, and that starts right here in our community at home in Vermont. So programs like Rally for Change have a huge impact on community of low-income Vermonters and people that we serve at Feeding Chittenden, and it really is, it lifts people up.
More than anything, I just love working here. I love the people and the products, and I love being a part of the opportunity and just so much support for local means a lot.
Both the co-op and Mascoma Bank have the visions of making our communities better places to live. Mascoma Bank and Onion River Co-op are very much aligned in that way.
I have chosen to stick with bagging for all of that time because I like being in the front end and being able to go indoors and outdoors and wait on customers.
In my role at Local Motion, we greatly depend on the member worker program to staff and volunteer many of our programs. Kind of ideal moment of community is through active outdoors with other people to a greater cause, and City Market has been a big part of that, so I'm really grateful for that.
With SEBA, City Market has partnered with us a number of years, being the recipient of the Rally for Change program, which is just a beautiful way for people to give back in little ways. And we've also partnered with City Market on different events throughout the years. John Tashiro, who is the GM, was our board president up until last year. So the connections here have just always been positive. And really just fruitful as far as, helping nonprofits in the area.
I had the opportunity to serve on the board for 6 years, and I remember it's probably the first board meeting I was at, or the board orientation, and someone mentioned, well, this grocery store is really just a front for a community organization. And I love that, and that kind of stuck with me this whole time.
A cookie from Middlesex that's shaped like a heart. I don't know who makes these cookies, but they're filled with jam, they're local, they're like heart-shaped and beautiful. And every time I give them to somebody, I pick very wisely who I give them to, because inside, every single cookie is a message when you open it up, and it's like a gift. And I cannot come in to City Market without getting those cookies.
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market.
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market.
And here's to another 50 amazing years.
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market.
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market.
Happy anniversary, City Market, Onion River Co-op. Great to be a part of this.
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market. Yay!
Happy 50th anniversary, City Market.
50th anniversary, City Market.
Happy 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 anniversary, 50th anniversary, City Market.
It was featured in terms of certain pictures as well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and once again, I will say that we've had a couple of really great videos throughout the years, especially also for the 20th anniversary celebration of the downtown store last year, where also lots of stories from longtime members and people who've been involved with the co-op, so I ask you to check that out as well. With that, we're going to move on to meeting the board candidates, and with that, I'd like to introduce Mitch, our board member, to make the intros.
Thank you, John, and forgive me while I refer to my notes here. So every year, Onion River Co-op members hold an election to select our new board members to our board of directors. And as Michael Healy, our board facilitator, who I see in the back there, would say, this process is really democracy in action. So pretty cool that we get to be a part of it. So City Market's board of directors represents all 12,000 plus members in monitoring the business of the co-op, which includes ensuring that our co-op is continuously working towards achieving our global ends. And this year we have 3 candidates for 3 openings. You'll have a chance to hear from all of them today. And we just want to note that even though this year's election is not necessarily contested, we do still hold it in order to follow our board policies, which is very important. So without further ado, let's meet the candidates. First, let's hear from Shannon Rose Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Mitchell. So today I stand before you telling you why I should be on the City Market Board of Directors. I grew up in rural Vermont. I grew up in South Reading, Vermont, to be more specific, and I grew up in abject poverty. I lived in a single-wide trailer with my 2 parents and older sister, and we did experience some mild food insecurity, and most of our food that we had was like fish sticks or canned green beans. It was very processed. It wasn't very healthy. And so when I moved to Burlington after graduating from high school, I started going to the co-op. I started going there just to get groceries and pantry supplies and things like that. But eventually I started going there because there was a sense of community, a sense of warmth that I felt whenever I walked in the doors of the downtown store. That's something that I still feel and look forward to this day. And I've grown and I've changed, but I'm still in Vermont. I'm still in the Chittenden County. I still go to City Market, and I really want to see City Market grow, and I really want to see it help. I really want to help it continue to help them to continue to support the community. I am currently a content manager, so I actually have a lot of communication skills, and I've also got a background in quality assurance, so I've actually got I'm very detail-oriented and very analytical. But again, I grew up in Vermont. I'm from Vermont. I'm going to stay in Vermont, and I love Vermont. And I love my community, and I just want to support it and see it grow and flourish. And I think that knowing food insecurity and growing up really poor has left me in a very unique position to be able to see different issues in our community that people might not always see, and to be able to come up with ways to adequately support our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shannon. And now let's hear from Jen Savas.
So even though this is about me, I have to refer to my phone because I'm nervous in public. But my name is Jen Savas. I live in South Burlington. I am currently a project specialist at a nonprofit called Improve Care Now. Improve Care Now is a learning health network made up of over 100 children's hospitals all over the United States and some in Belgium, Qatar, and United Kingdom. Our network is a collaborative community where physicians, researchers, nutritionists, social workers, parents, caregivers, and even patients work together to improve the care and the cost for children with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. I am recently an empty nester. We've had 4 children go through our house, 3 older children for my husband, and my son Jack is now a freshman at Fairfield University. I'm applying for a position at City Market's Board of Directors because I have the time and I have the energy. I love my job. I love my job very much, but I work from home, and without kids in the house, I feel like I no longer have ties to my community. I have a lot of skills. Some of them include graphic design, event planning, and project management. I'm a passionate gardener and beekeeper. I love putting together baskets of flowers and vegetables and honey, which was not successful this year, unfortunately. My bees didn't produce very much honey. But I love putting together baskets and giving them to my friends and to my neighbors. And then I especially love going to City Market to see what I can't grow and purchasing them. I love going to City Market and looking at all of the products, the flowers, and the pastries. I'm all in with those heart cookies. I've been a mentor at King Street and the South Burlington Mentoring Program. I've watched food security firsthand, and I hope to be involved in helping City Market with those programs. Thanks for giving me the time today.
All right, thanks, Jen. And then we're going to meet our last board candidate for this year's election via video.
Hi, City Market community. My name is Brian Tobin, and I'm asking for your support to become a member of the board of directors of the City Market Co-op. Sorry that I'm not there in person to deliver this speech, but hopefully you can hear me well and see me well. I think a good spot to start is why I want to take this position. A big part of my why of wanting to be on the board of directors is that City Market's been a focal point of my experience in Vermont for the last 13 years. I have seen the impact that it has in our community, and I'd love to be a part of it. It feels like a great way to give back to something that means a lot to me. Why I think I might be a good member of the board of directors is really 3 reasons. 1 is business acumen, 2 is effective communication, and 3 is a commitment to justice. So in terms of business acumen, I have studied business, and I now run my own small business and have been involved in a lot of small businesses. So I know how to read financial documents, look at projections, and really kind of talk the talk about logistical means of running a business. And a $50 million business like City Market, we need to think in terms of business decisions. And I think I can really think through business decisions very effectively. So that's one part. The other part is that I'm an effective communicator. So I'm a psychotherapist by trade, and that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. And a big part of that is facilitating conversation and getting to meaning. And so I hope in our meetings I'd be able to facilitate effective communication among the members of the board, but also the stakeholders, all the people who come into these meetings and who are affected by our decisions. So I think that I have that skill set and can effectively facilitate communication in our meetings. The third part that I think could be really helpful is that I do have a deep commitment to justice and a lot of experience in diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So while I was at Middlebury College, I worked closely with the DEI team and saw what it takes to really think in ways that interrupt oppressive frameworks. And so I hope that if I get elected to be on the board of directors, we can really infuse that type of thinking, not only interpersonally in our kind of smaller teams, but co-op wide. I think it's a big effort to interrupt oppressive forces, and I know it's a big value of ours, so I'd love to help facilitate that. So thanks for listening, and please give me your support for being on the City Market Board of Directors. Thanks so much.
All right, so thanks for taking a few minutes to meet our board candidates with me. And as you can see up here on the screen, voting for the board candidates will open on October 1st, running through the 21st. You can vote online, and then we will also be sharing that link and instructions via email and on our website. If you do need to update your email with us to get that information, you can do so online through the member access portal, or you can fill out, there's forms available at the welcome table here today. So thank you to all the candidates for running, and with that, I will hand it over to my fellow, again, it really boils down to just following our board policy. And we kind of talked through this at the board meeting earlier this month. Theoretically, there could be a scenario where, somebody doesn't get a vote, and we would not be sure exactly what would happen then and there, but John or Christina, did you want to fill in any information there?
Well, the only other thing that I will share is that I am so grateful to those folks who want to take on the role of a director and want to put the time and effort in, and I also just want to show my support by voting for them, just to not just have the numbers, but really also the show of support from the membership. Yes. You can also vote in the store at the customer service desk, correct? Great. Okay. Thank you.
Hello. So since 2002, the co-op has annually recognized an individual for their outstanding contribution to our community through the Community Service Award presented in honor of Don Schramm. This year we had 10 incredible nominations. One of my favorite parts of serving on the board is getting to learn about all of these various community leaders that are connected to the co-op and the greater Vermont community. I speak on behalf of the whole board when I express our sincere gratitude for all of the nominees and the work they're doing. And with great pleasure, I get to announce this year's winner, Jayna Ahsaf. Jayna is a leader in Vermont who is organizing a transformative prison abolitionist movement in the state with the organization Free Her. Jayna partners with community groups through local jurisdictions and national organizations to ensure that all voices are heard in the move to decarcerization. There we go. Her passion for the movement and motivation to work with everyone demonstrates her positive impact in the community. And while she couldn't join us today, she did send a video, so we'll share that now.
Hello everyone, my name is Jayna Ahsaf. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the lead organizer for the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls Free Her campaign. I just want to say thank you. I have the deepest gratitude that you all gave me this award, especially knowing that I was actually nominated by a community member warms my heart in ways you all can't even understand. It can be hard sometimes and you feel like you're putting in all this effort and it's not really recognized, and this award really gave me a lot of energy, and I'm just thankful to the board and City Market for even having an award like this to give out to organizers and to recognize their hard work. Free Her means everything to me, and to me it's not just about getting rid of our prisons. It's about building up Vermont and giving all of our community members all the things they need to not only survive, but thrive. This means so much for the changing of our foundation. It means integrating love into everything we do. And I am just so pleased that this award will help you all connect more to our work too. I think that there's a lot of connections between City Market, giving our communities nourishing, healthy, organic food. Like, to me, that's a part of abolition. So yeah, I just want to give my kudos to City Market. Free Her to me is really one of the most gratifying work I've ever done. Being able to give back to some of our most vulnerable community members feels like my mission as a human, and really has energized me and kept me going for so long. And having been born and raised in Vermont, like, this community means everything to me. I went to Burlington High School and I was a graduate of UVM. So I've been in these circles, in these networks forever, and just being able to touch everybody and get them involved in a new way has been inspiring. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you to my community. Thank you to the board, and thank you to City Market.
All right. With that, we are now going to move into more of the what we'll call the business side of the co-op. And so with that, we have a number of slides and information that we wanted to share with you. So with that, shall we start?
Yes, let's get started.
Okay. So it's always difficult to sort of give you a bit of a snapshot in review of the year, but we try our best to do so. So in terms of successes, one of the things that I think members are aware of is that we work with a union at the co-op. We were able to really have a wonderful, productive negotiation last summer and ratified a new 2-year contract with our union. And that was a wonderful process. I think for now quite a while. We have meetings every 4 to 6 weeks between management and the union leadership discussing various issues and topics, which has been really productive. Obviously mentioned earlier, it's hard to believe, but the Southland store being open for over 5 years now. So that's just an amazing sort of feat. Who could have imagined? But in many ways, just really being mindful of that milestone. I hope, and if you haven't tried it already, members might have tried the self-checkouts in the downtown store. And we often get questions around, what the purpose of that is. And I know that people can sort of jump to conclusions about trying to reduce labor and such, but really our purpose around self-checkouts was really to provide more choice. Once again, a way to be more inclusive. And if anything, we actually increased the number of staff in the front end to ensure we best serve customers and members. And in many ways, it has proven to be very successful. I think we have learned that operating a cash register versus a self-checkout is a different type of skill set. But I think we've navigated that well. And certainly for many members and customers, we have also received the comment, it's about time, which has in some ways been really great to know because once again, we want to provide choices. Foot traffic downtown has also increased pretty significantly, but hopefully you haven't found the lines to be as long, which was once again another reason for the self-checkouts. And recruitment and retention, staffing levels have been really quite healthy across both stores over the last 12 months. I think food retail, I think all of you know, the work is hard, and the commitment by our staff is unbelievable. But nonetheless, we do have turnover, but I think compared to previous years, our staffing levels have remained very healthy, and we're managing through it. On the challenges side, I know there was a comment around Champlain Parkway. And we would agree wholeheartedly that it has been challenging. I think one of the things that we've noted with the Champlain Parkway, once again, it was, I think, 45 plus years in the making, maybe 50 years in the making. I do not say if, but now when. And certainly last summer, construction began. Who could have imagined how entertaining blasting would be? For us, it was a major concern around safety of our staff, our customers and members. And for those of you who might have experienced blasting, we had it for a number of weeks, twice a day, when literally customers and members weren't allowed to be in the parking lot. They had to be in the store, and they certainly couldn't be in the cafe area. But news seemed to spread that this was very cool. And not only for our staff, who would, all of a sudden the store would stop as the sirens blew 5 minutes before it was actually happening. We had actually customers come in, members come in, and many children, and just pointing toward the cafe sort of space to say, look, it's happening. And then a minute to go, a little whistle would blow, and then we would hear a bit of a rumble. I'm from Queens, New York originally, and it almost felt like the subway was running underneath us. But we got through that. Obviously, more recently, we have certainly seen a lot of construction happening down Flynn Avenue. We're trying to keep customers and members and staff as updated as possible, but there is a bit of a flowing of things changing fairly frequently, so we really appreciate everyone's patience. And from what we understand, at least for the phase 1 part of the project will impact the South End store area, that work is set to conclude by within November of this year. There are still questions, though, in terms of whether or not then the concluded areas will be opening up because there is a phase 2 component that will still take another 2 years-ish. So we will certainly keep everyone posted on that status. As it relates to some of the challenges with the growing season, I think you heard from Christina that our hearts go out to our farmers, our vendors, our producers, and we will continue to work as closely with them and as creatively as we can in ways to support them. We also had some senior managers who transitioned. And so we've been able to obviously bring new people on board, bring new thinking on board. I think that has and is a continued work in progress. And our downtown store environment, this is a hard one. And for those who live or frequent the downtown quite often, we certainly have challenges in our downtown store, and I think probably people have experienced it more broadly. We've had more theft. We've had more brazen theft happening in the downtown store than we've ever had before. We also have issues with our bathroom and drug use. And so I'll just be very transparent. We've actually increased the number of our safety and security team by another 2 people, specifically because of some of the challenges we have in the downtown. We're working closely with the city. We recognize the various challenges. And with that, we are very attuned to wanting to make sure, ultimately, our highest priority is to make sure that our staff, our customers, and you, our members, are safe. We take that very seriously, and I think you probably saw that during COVID as well, in terms of how we limited traffic and did contact tracing for much, much longer than any other organization. But we're proud of that fact. We think safety is the utmost important, and so I would just ask all of you to be patient as we continue to maintain that environment, especially in our downtown store, but certainly across both stores. So that's really a bit of a summary around our success and challenges. We'll go over to now some sales performance numbers. Also, a bit of a trend in terms of how our sales performance has been over the last 5 years or so. As you see, we are exceeding 56 million in annual sales. And for anyone who has ever worked or worked in actually food retail or retail, even though that number is certainly a very significant number, on any given sort of annual performance, if you can get anywhere from 1% to 2% of profit from that, that is an amazing achievement because the margins are so tight. As you look at the division of that sales as it relates to member, non-member, local, non-local, downtown and south end, you'll notice that I think in many ways, the support of members remains significant. And I've often been asked, isn't it an ideal state to have almost 90+% of your sales by members? And I would say that is a nice indication, but at the same time, it's all right that we have a lot of non-members who are shopping at our stores. We want to really be open. We are not requiring membership. We are open to all. So I think the numbers are fairly healthy, and we appreciate that. I think the non-local and local, as members will certainly know, and customers, that we define local as anything that is predominantly manufactured or certainly produced in Vermont. And so to have close to 40% of our sales out of local products is pretty significant. And especially speaking with other GMs and other co-ops, they are amazed and envious of such a high local sales number. And then between downtown and south end sales, actually previous year, we saw more of a 50-50 split. But as mentioned, I think partially because of the impact of the Champlain Parkway and some of the inconveniences, which we understand, but at the same time, the traffic in the downtown area has increased pretty significantly. And so with that, we have seen a slight trending upwards for downtown sales.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about local sales once again. We are so proud to highlight over $22 million in local sales in the past year. It's amazing. Again, that's almost 40% of all sales, with over 3,000 individual products available. And we were delighted to welcome 40 new vendors last year, and that's up from only 26 in the previous year. We're really also proud of our long-term vendors and the relationships that the co-op has built with producers, small and large, new and old. We're going to talk a little bit also about the fact that over a dozen city market vendors were affected by flooding over the past summer. And in addition to this month's Rally for Flood Relief, and here I really want to give a shout out to staff because the Rally for Change partners are typically selected months in advance. So it was really quite the pivot to be able to make September a Rally for Flood Relief. The co-op has really been working behind the scenes to support community organizations and the vendors directly. And members can help again by rounding up at the register this month, or at the registration table you can find a QR code with organizations that you can donate to support flood relief as well.
Okay, once again, moving on to just some of the trends we see between the two stores. And once again, as mentioned, our downtown sales, especially really driven by the number of people traffic or customer traffic, has increased pretty significantly. You'll notice that downtown sales were up close to 8% versus previous year, while our South End store decreased a little bit. And once again, for reasons stated before, I think the Champlain Parkway really has had quite an impact. But it is still surprising, even when we've had all those distractions with the South End, people are still making their way to the South End store, which really is, I think, is a testament to the commitment that customers and members have. Moving on to, and I can't say enough about our amazing staff. We have close to 300 staff that work across the stores, and the commitment is unbelievable. I think many of you have written in about the service and the experience and what I call the vibe and the soul of the co-op, that you feel it when you come into the stores. That's really being upheld by our hardworking and such dedicated staff. This is just some quick stats in terms of some of the volunteer work that we have been really promoting with our staff, because we want to share that energy out in the community as well. And so we've also increased the number of paid volunteering work from 8 to 16 hours as part of the new agreement with staff. And then our HR team, our people and culture team, they conduct a number of wellness activities throughout the year, both from an emotional, physical state, to try to ensure that our staff really are valued and are learning constantly at the co-op. We also had 52 participants in a Walk Vermont. Not to concern anyone, they aren't actually walking across Vermont. This is more of a virtual walk. But Dawn, I'm sure, will attest to, we have a number of staff people who are very committed to this. And it's really wonderful to see in terms of just the number of participants. Yep. Yep. So across the year, we previously had really paid volunteering, really promoting for our staff to be able to work at local nonprofits and our various community partners. Yes, so they would be paid to work if they wanted to, as if they were working in the store, but they would volunteer somewhere else. So once again, in the same way that I'm sure many members of here volunteer in the community, we really wanted to nourish and nurture that amongst our staff. So we've done not only sort of more hours and offered that as part of sort of our initiative, but really promoted that more so throughout the last 12 months.
Before we talk a little bit more about members, let's give a round of applause for our amazing staff, many of whom are here today. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to talk a little bit about membership. I believe this time last year we had just hit 12,000 members, and now we closed FY23 with over 12,500 members, in part driven by 2 very successful member drives in October and June. So we are now at 12,569 members. We welcomed 338 members during our member drive last October and 65 members during our June member drive. And we are having a new October member drive this year. So if you have friends who haven't yet joined the co-op or need to renew, October is going to be the time to do it. New and renewing members will have a chance to win some really great prizes, including a Burton snowboard and gift card. And also, there are going to be some giveaway bundles with products from Aqua Vitae, Ariel's Honey, Battenkill Brittle, Bon Tom Gourmet, Butterfly Bakery, and a handful of additional fantastic suppliers. So make sure to tell your friends, and if you are due to renew, do it in October.
At the same time, we also wanted to talk about some evolving work around our member benefits program. So that's one of the things that we've been really looking to see how we can enhance some of the benefits and really convey the benefits that members are available to access. So some of the newer things that we've done over the last year, but more recently, especially with receipts. And I know that we've received many comments from members in past around, can we not get these receipts emailed to us? That is now possible. So that's really exciting. And then also about community connections. And I would really encourage you to just revisit some of the community connections that you have access to as being a member of the co-op. But we want to just feature some new partners that we've added in the Soul Shine Power Yoga, Burlington Beer Company, and also OGBE. So just to really make you aware of it, any chance we get. So please do just keep an also lookout on our website for additional benefits that we'll be sort of working towards throughout the upcoming year.
What does OGGI mean?
Lauren, I'm going to give you that question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what the letters stand for. I have to look it up on their website, but it's a yoga and wilderness therapy organization.
Yeah, she's the provider offers yoga therapy, which is sort of like yoga and sort of like a totally different thing. And also, I've tried it; it's really cool. And also, yeah, I think she's doing some cool wilderness stuff as well. She's a fantastic yoga instructor.
So do they work with veterans and stuff who need people who need to re-establish their personalities and feel a sense of value, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Great question.
Great, we are.
So the question was, in terms of, and maybe we can put up the previous slide. So what does OGGIBE stand for, and what offer and service do they provide? And I think we don't know the exact sort of name of what OGGIBE stands for, but Lauren.
And I believe her name is Christine. Christine is a yoga and wilderness therapy coach.
Great. And over to you, Christine, about member work.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about member work. As many of you know, several years ago, the co-op transitioned from offering member work opportunities in the store to offering member work in organizations across our community. And so member workers completed over 16,000 hours of volunteer work last year, which is truly amazing. Thank you. So as one of the benefits of being a member worker is a discount. I believe it's 12% for 4 hours of work in the community, and is it 8% for 2? 7%. Thank you. Sorry, being on the board does count as member work, so I've been on the 12% for a while now, and I surely appreciate it. We also onboarded 3 new community outreach partners in FY 2023. That's the Fletcher Free Library, Spectrum Youth and Family Services, and People's Farmstead. And so we're really glad to offer more opportunities for member work. This 27 nonprofit community partners with the over 16,000 volunteer hours means that it's the equivalent of 8 full-time employees working out in our community, which is truly huge. And as you can see, the average discount was over $800 per member worker for the year.
Okay, we're going to now segue to a little bit of other ways of impact that the co-op is having in the community. And I think the first one is around sort of our environmental commitment. And it's an area that I know we need to continue to do a better job in terms of sharing. But I hope members will have experienced Earth Week at the co-op earlier this year, just in terms of this shift from just giving out reusable bags. And I know that there have been a number of members who have come to me and said, John, we've love
got
those
some in
bags.
the crowd.
We do have one here, but I think members will probably have noticed that they are really prevalent across the community. And for a long period of time, we really wanted to promote the reusing of bags. But at the same time, we also recognize that if we think about there being sort of a time period and when do we make a shift, we really thought that this year would be a good time to possibly make that shift and really look at other ways that we can certainly sustain and really share the environmental commitment we have to the community. So we move with giving out 6,000 seed packets. I hope some of you may have planted those seeds and maybe have some.
Can you make it vegetables next year?
So we will take that member comment. I know that Todd has just written that down, but absolutely, I think we can certainly consider that. We also teamed up with 1% for the Planet, who, by the way, have an office right here in Hula. If you don't know 1% for the Planet, and I must say I'm a little biased because I did work for 1% for the Planet prior to coming to the co-op. They're a global environmental organization working with businesses to commit them to invest at least 1% of their sales, not profits, because you can fudge profits, you cannot fudge sales, to environmental causes, working with environmental organizations across the world. They are also co-founded by the co-founder and the owner and founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, who, if you don't know Patagonia, just their commitment to the environment is really unprecedented. So with that, we work closely with them as a local but global organization. And in addition, we were able to make a donation working to the Abenaki, Helping Abenaki, which is an organization that helps the Abenakis to grow food in their communities. Yes?
When are you going to get the Abenaki squash, the long ones?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Okay, we will follow up with you during this meeting, or actually post this meeting in terms of the timings of that, because I don't know the timings of that offhand. But thanks for that question. The other thing also to note around the environmental commitment, which, and once again, we're passionate, obviously, at the co-op around environmental commitments. For those of you who know, when we opened the South End store, one of the things we often talked about was the fact that grocery stores have a very significant footprint on global warming. It's probably one of the top 2 in the world. And the reason for that is because of refrigeration units. For anyone who's worked on refrigeration units or has worked in a grocery store, you can imagine that refrigeration units are absolutely critical to running a grocery store. We have 25 refrigeration units in the downtown store and a similar number in the South End. And traditional refrigeration units use a refrigerant, which is called HFC, hydrofluorocarbons. And they are very potent if they leak into the air, about 1,000 times more potent than CO2. Right, so you can imagine the type of impact if you have 25 of those units in a store. And once again, we are a smaller store compared to many of the traditional grocery stores on their impact to the environment. Well, our downtown store has a traditional unit. When we built it, that was the best that was available. And yet, one of the things that we have continued to do over the years is to reduce the leakage rate in the piping systems for those refrigeration units. The industry average, by the way, is 40%. And people will say, 40%, what does that mean? That means 40% you're using more electricity, and also that refrigerant is leaking. And it leaks as a gas into the environment, which once again contributes negatively, obviously, to global warming. Well, the work that our team does downtown, and once again, this is one of the areas that we need to do a better job talking about, they assess those refrigeration units once a quarter. And so we have lowered that leakage rate to record numbers, as low as at one point 4%. Wow. Right? Woo! So, and once again, for those who know Burlington's sort of piping infrastructure system well, it's an ongoing challenge to continue to make sure that we stay at that 4%. But I know our team is working hard, and just to let you know that that is happening. I think for the South End, it's a different story. Mm-hmm. We had, obviously, means to new technology. We took a pretty big risk when we designed the piping system for that store. So we were the first retailer in Vermont to actually put in what they call a transcritical CO2 system. in simplistic terms, essentially you are powering your refrigeration units with CO2. Never been done before in Vermont. Had been done in other states and certainly in places like Europe. Right? But we decided to move forward with it. It probably cost about 40% more. You had to work really closely with the construction companies to make sure the piping system was set in place, because there's complexity to that. And we were the first to open it in the state of Vermont. And I guess, the thing where we talk about how does that impact the community? Well, certainly, if it were to leak, it only leaks CO2, right? So there's an impact for our future generations to come. But I think the bigger impact is we wanted to do it because we think other, not just co-ops, but other mainstream grocers, certainly if City Market can do it, they should be able to do it too. And so, with that in mind, we did actually have had engineering conferences at the South End store, inviting 30 to 40 engineers from across the region to come in and study our system. And it is through that studying that they learn, and I just heard Briar Patch Food Co-op in Grasslands, California. The GM there, Chris Mayer, and I had been talking. And he studied our system, and they just opened their second store 2 weeks ago with a transcritical CO2 system because City Market did it back 5 years ago. Right? So it's this type of impact that I think everyone knows. Yes, we have impacts in our community, certainly in Burlington and Greater Vermont, but we're having impacts across the country. And it's just great to just see that we are living our values. So with that.
Thank you, John. We are going to talk a little bit about classes. Who attended one of our 119 classes last year? In person, online, off-site? It's been such a great opportunity over the past few years to diversify how we offer classes. And we offered classes that were attended by over 1,700 people last year. And those are folks in our community and outside our community who have attended our online classes. Remember that our paid classes are $25, but if you're a member, they're only $10. So that's equivalent to a $15 annual equity payment. So if you bring a friend to a class, remind them, if they're not a member, that if they attend one class with that $15 discount, it's like your equity payment paying for itself.
Okay. So this next area I know that is close to certainly my heart and I think to everyone's heart, and it's the area around food insecurity. Certainly it is critical as a co-op that we continue to make contributions and work in the area of food insecurity. I would say that whenever we talk with customers and with members, the two areas we focus on are how do we strengthen local food systems, how do we strengthen and address food, our work in food insecurity. And so I'm really glad to share that our Food for All programs, which makes up about 10% of our membership, so a little over 1,000 members, we were able to support them work by providing them 2 discounts in the store. The first is a 10% discount for all their purchases, with the exception of beer, wine, alcohol products. And then specific to produce and bulk items, a 15% discount. And that's ongoing. Right? And that was really driven by the fact that about 4 years ago, we spoke and had focus groups with Food for All members to say, how can we better support you? And the top 2 things that came back were around how can we have better access to healthy fruits and veg, and the other was around bulk items. So we incorporated that additional discount to make it 15%. And so once again, this is ongoing work that we are doing just to show the progress over the last year. To basically say, based on those discounts, that amount of money, $300,000 plus, was able to go towards other basic things that really Food for All members could use for. I will also say that, as a state, I think you've probably heard the stats, maybe, But when we think about children going hungry, so our stats in Vermont are 1 in every 5 kids don't get enough to eat every day. It's a better stat than a lot of other states where it's 1 out of every 4. But it's not good enough.
Do you work with programs in the school to teach kids how to work in kindergarten?
We do. We do. We work, and there's still more work to do. We work with the school systems. I think members are aware of that. I will also say that we work closely with the Feeding Chittenden folks. Right? And we know the stats for food insecurity in Chittenden County is 17,000 people. And one of the challenges is that through, whether it be our Rally for Change work or with other ways that we promote the work, we're only able to collectively, working with Feeding Chittenden, reach 12,000 of them. So we have a gap in Chittenden County by itself. And part of that gap is not just around access. There are other issues around just some of the, I guess, perceptions that people have, and people not wanting to reach out because of those reasons. So all that to say is, once again, not surprising, it is an area of work that we will continue to focus on. It's very critically important to the co-op's mission. And just to say that our commitment, continues there.
Which of your organizations work with both like people coming out of prison and can work to train them, use your farmer suppliers who know how to grow food, to teach the former prisoners how to teach kids how to grow food and how to teach anyone in the community to grow food in their own backyard.
Yeah.
Or their own front yard.
Yeah.
Because that would be a good therapy for the people coming out of prison who have been robbed of their self-respect.
Yeah.
My father-in-law was a judge here in Burlington in the 20s, and he had the prisoners working for him they were given honor to work, and their wages went back to their families so that they would have a family to go back to. When they came out of jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
We called them the jailbirds.
Yeah.
But at least they had a nest to go back to when they came out of jail and could recuperate and get out of that milieu of having to steal just to have food.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I emphasize training
So,
people to grow their own.
Yeah. I think, it's a really good point in terms of how can we better sustain and find ways to grow our own food.
And it rehabs the prisoners.
Yes, yes. So there are efforts that we are certainly making in that area, and we can talk further offline with some of the partners that we work with. But I think this area more broadly, just in terms of how do we find ways to support organizations, whether it be around growing food for themselves and or working with partners to be able to, I guess, address some of the systemic sort of ways in which we're approaching this versus creating new ways. I think are issues that we are certainly involved in, will stay very active in. So, great.
All right, go ahead. This is still you,
and I
John.
would be remiss because it's still warm. It's still warm outside.
It's coming.
But it is coming, and I think members will know that obviously we start getting excited for a variety of things over the remaining months of the year, but certainly COTS. Once again, we celebrate 25 years in partnership with COTS over the last year. And so I think all of you know that come typically at the end of November, early December, if you come to the stores, you see obviously these wonderful trees that we are trying to sell, and with all the profits going to COTS, right? And I always am cautioned, John, if you climb that truck, you cannot fall down. And I always say, I will be cautious. And I have been. But I would just wanted to let you know that for the last sort of COTS tree sale that we had at the end of last year, we were able to sell a record number of 750 trees across both stores, giving over $5,000 to the Intervale Center to plant 750 new trees, along with a donation to COTS of close to $20,000. And this year, because then you'll be wondering, wait, when is it happening this year? So for the downtown store, happening on November 29th, and then for the South End store, December 1st. And now the trees will be going quickly, so we really encourage you to come out as soon as you can. And this year, we're doing a total of 700 trees. I must say that last year, we had some stragglers in the end. And so this year, we're going to really focus on the 700 trees. But just really wanted to let you know of that, and hope we see you there and be in the midst of some lovely pine scent.
Right, mark your calendar. So we're going to just highlight some of our amazing sponsorships and community donations over the past year. We were able to support the community with over $45,000 in donations. Our co-op seedling grants were awarded to 9 different program recipients. You can see here on the bottom, that was a photograph from our community seedling grant celebration, and it was really my first time attending, or actually I guess my second time attending the celebration, but it was so moving to really hear from all of these community organizations about the impact that the award will make for their work and for their organization. And many of these are small awards. It's only a total of $32,500, but when you really heard folks talk about what they're going to be spending their awards on, it's just a really outsized impact. And we also were able to donate $147,000 through our Rally for Change at the Register. One of the other highlights that I wanted to share, I don't think it's on the side, was about our sponsorship of local schools, again, and the Junior Iron Chef program in Vermont. If you're not familiar with that program, it's a great cooking competition that is part of many schools' farm-to-school programs, and some of our staff have actually coached the Junior Iron Chefs through that program. If you've ever seen any Junior Iron Chefs in action, like, they really know how to cook. They will put you through their paces. So it's a really, really great program that we were able to support. We are also currently selecting recipients for our 2023 co-op seedling grants, and that is another way that you can support the co-op through member work. If you want to join the next review committee, reviews will take place next year, you can get in touch with us and we will put you in touch with the folks who organize that committee. It's a really great opportunity to review many of the fantastic grant applications that we receive for that program.
All right, so we don't have too much longer here, just to let you know, but I did want to make one quick announcement, and I know that some of you have already asked me about this, but obviously we have a wonderful selection of food out there, but I know people came possibly having already eaten some of their breakfast and feeling already pretty full, and then wondering, what's going to happen to all that food, John? It looks wonderful, and I'd love to take it away. So we've heard you. And so we do have takeaway boxes that we've put out. So before the conclusion of the meeting, we would certainly encourage you to take what you would like. And we will certainly have more food in the afternoon as part of the 50th event celebration. But just wanted to make sure that you're aware that we will have those takeaway boxes there at your leisure. All right, so just doing a quick look back, and I guess I just wanted to mention, in addition to all that's happened throughout the last 12 months, certainly from a performance business standpoint, we're also very mindful that we lost a number of people in our community who were quite instrumental to the co-op throughout the last year, and I'm sure many of you might have lost someone throughout the last 12 months. And so we just want to take a moment of silence just to really think about those loved ones. I know that for me personally, and I think I mentioned earlier, I've been really fortunate to be able to connect with a number of people who are longtime co-op supporters, people were involved, people like Bruce Cipher, people like Will Rapp. I remember meeting Will Rapp, I've been in Vermont for about 10 years, and maybe in my just second year before I even started the co-op, we had an opportunity to connect. Mary Mangus, longtime staff person at the co-op, who all of you I'm sure know. Certainly Clem's daughter, Emma, who I gotten to know as well. A former Community Service Award winner, Dr. Janet Kars-Caden. Just many people that I think have been so instrumental to the co-op. So if I could just ask everyone for a quick maybe minute worth of silence, just thinking about them and all your loved ones too. Thank you. Thank you for that. So with that, as we look forward to then the upcoming year, just really wanted to remind everyone, and we've talked quite a bit about this, but our ongoing work as the co-op to support flood-affected farms and our vendors and our producers. We certainly have a wonderful celebration planned for this afternoon from 1:30 to 4, where we're going to have 20 vendors featuring and sampling lots of their food, live music, and certainly long games. So it's all very family friendly, and hopefully we hope you have some great fun out there. Obviously we have the member drive that's coming up in October. So really wanted to encourage you to spread the word and take advantage of that. And then certainly the COTS tree sale in December. Just a few of the things that are certainly happening at the co-op. But I guess all that being said, really just wanted to thank you for your support of the co-op.
Thank you, members. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone who is here today. Don't forget to vote for the board. You can vote online or at the customer service desk between October 1st and 21st. And thank you again for our board candidates who are so willing to serve and help the co-op take on the challenges of the next 50 years.
I know on the city ballot, they always allow write-in candidates. Is that going to be permissible on this ballot as well?
So the question was about write-in candidates. I don't believe we've had a write-in candidate process in the past. But if folks are interested in the board, but they're not quite sure if they're ready or that it's something they're interested in, please talk to any board member today or in the future. You can find our information on the website. You can also talk to Megan here and Jody, who are members of our board perpetuation committee. And that is another committee where you can get involved. I think Phil is also in the crowd, who's a member of the committee, and Pam is here. So we also have some folks who are not on the board who are members of that board perpetuation committee, and it's a great way to get more involved in the co-op without necessarily making the commitment to being on the board.
And so in just a moment, we're going to open it up to Q&A. But before we do that, I did also want to take a moment, as Christina also referenced to, I really wanted to thank our amazing staff who have worked so hard to put this event together, and certainly the event that we have awaiting this afternoon. There was a real effort across staff at the co-op. And so just really want to thank them. Obviously, Michael, who is our executive chef, and his team always take a tremendous amount of time just to plan out the food. Certainly, we also have other great partners, not just in Hula, but Jake, who is orchestrating all of our tech work. And then certainly our board, who has very much been supportive of just moving it back to this in-person format, wanting to make sure that we also kept all of us safe. versus doing another year virtual, which I hope this has worked for you in identifying this space as well. So just really wanted to thank them all. I hope we can all give them a quick round of applause for all their hard work. So with that, we're going to open it up to Q&A. Lauren, our membership manager, is going to be having a mic, and she's going to rove around. And then Christine and I will be here in the front to answer those questions.
Thank you.
Can you hold this up close?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Down here first.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Wolfgar. I've been a member for over 10 years. And about 10 years ago, Bill McKibben tried eating only local for 1 year. And it was very difficult. And along that line, I thought I would try eating local for 1 year. So last year, I went only to City Market and purchased, and every item I purchased, I put on a spreadsheet, local, regional, US, foreign. And I was only able to succeed eating local about 48%. One problem was that a lot of the stuff that's offered at City Market is not marked as to where it comes from. For it comes from distributors. Well, where did the distributors get their information, their food from? Oh, a little closer still? Okay. And the other item is the bulk food. We don't know where the bulk food comes from either. Now, Middlebury Natural Food Co-op does mark their bulk food as to origin. So I would really request that maybe City Market work a little more on identifying the source of their food to help those people who would like to eat more local, because the future in an energy descent future is more local. Thank you.
Just wanted to thank you for that comment, and we will definitely take that into consideration. Appreciate that.
Coming over here first. I'll go to you next.
I'm very concerned about the condition of the cafe downtown. It really has become a rather unpleasant experience to go in there and eat. I wonder what your plans are for remedying this situation. I realize it's difficult because you get all kinds of customers in and non-customers. However, there are things you can do, and I have some suggestions. So I'd like to speak with someone about that, and I'd like to hear what your plans are.
Well, thanks for bringing that. And once again, as I said earlier, we have, I think, challenges in the downtown store in particular, just around general safety, as well as just the overall, I would say, ambience. One of the things that we have done just in the last few months is increase the number of safety and security staff we have across the co-op, and predominantly with trying to maintain and possibly improve the situation in our downtown store, which specifically also includes the cafe. So that is one of the areas that, as you referenced, we do have challenges in terms of some of the customers that come in. They might spend time in the cafe longer and possibly in a way that maybe is not in tune with just wanting to make sure that the space is as safe and as comfortable as it could be. But the reality also is that we are inclusive. We want to invite people into our stores. And as part of that, we are trying to navigate that space, which has its complexities, because the reality is that I know that there are certain perceptions that people may have of people, but we try to hold judgment. We try to monitor situations and really best navigate on a case-by-case basis. Yep. Can we have a continue?
Here, sorry. Is also the setup of the actual co-op. There are things that can be done to remedy the tremendous noise in there. There are things to do that you can make more space. And I'd like to know what you're thinking of, if you're thinking of that.
Yep. I think at this point, we are really trying to best work within the space constraints we have, but to your point, if you have suggestions, we're more than happy to hear them, to take that into consideration, because there is certainly room always to improve, not just the cafe space, but even other spaces within the store.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have one?
This may seem like nitpicking, but there was one vegan dish in all of the food you prepared today.
Here, here. One. I thought there were three. The corn, the chickpea, and the fruit.
I'm allergic, well, the fruit, I mean, lots of fruit. I love fruit. I'm allergic to chickpeas. And the other dish was redolent with onions, and I am allergic to onions.
It was chickpea, corn chips, and fruit. That was it.
Yeah. At any rate, I remember the 2019 annual meeting at Echo, where there was plenty of vegan food. It was all marked. Nothing was really marked vegan here. And since vegans are at least a portion of your community, it would have been nice if we had been given a little bit more consideration today.
No, thank you for that. We will take that feedback. We really do appreciate that. We're sorry that there were limited options, but we will take that in consideration. Absolutely, and not nitpicky at all. Not nitpicky at all. So thank you for that.
I just have a question. You've mentioned hiring more safety and security staff recently, and I'm just curious if they're trained in interventions that don't prioritize calling the police. So that's just my question.
Yes. The answer is yes. And we recognize for two reasons. One is we recognize some of the capacity issues with the police. Second, we have an approach of wanting to be as cooperative as possible as it relates to being understanding and recognizing the different circumstances people might be in. So yes, we have a pretty extensive training that we do, especially for our safety and security team, when we onboard them into ways of working. Absolutely.
Thank you. John, I'm looking at the time. It's 12:59. Should we do one more question and wrap it up?
Yeah. How about we... Yes, and I would just say that if we aren't able to get to your questions, certainly Christine and I will continue to be around, so we're more than happy to take them, but maybe we can limit it to two more questions.
Yep. I'll come run up here, and then I'll do one in the back. Thanks.
Hi, so as a Winooskiite, there's no grocery store in Winooski. There's no conventional grocery store. What are City Market's plans, if any, to expand their reach into Winooski and make local food more accessible to Winooskiites?
Yeah. So great question, and I think this will dovetail into a question that was raised earlier in terms of maybe the financial, what I'll call payback with the investment that we made in the South End store. So, because I definitely wanted to address that question. So, as it currently stands, we are looking at really paying back the loan that investment required for the South End store by the year 2027. It was a 10-year loan. So we opened obviously in 2017, so the payback and the conclusion of that loan will conclude in 2027. In terms of expansion, and this is where the correlation is, so currently the co-op is not profitable. I don't think that will come as a surprise to many. When you make a pretty significant expansion plan for a number of years, typically co-ops are not profitable because they have to make up for the investment required to open up that, in this case, the South End location. We had put together a pro forma, once again, for people who are in business, will be very familiar with this, in terms of when we thought we could be able to get back to profitability. And back in 2016, a year before we opened that store, our predictions and forecasts, with a lot of diligence, looked at us possibly getting back to profitability by 2020 through 24 timeframe. However, And actually, for the first couple of years, 2018-19, we were actually tracking better than that pro forma. Our sales in the South End store and combined were higher than what we had anticipated. However, we all know what happened in February of 2020, COVID, right? And so we made a pretty significant decision at that time. And the decision was that we would limit customers into the store out of safety. And I think that was still the right decision. And that ended up resulting in a pretty significant stagnation of our sales. At the same time, we had a pretty significant union negotiation at the time to increase wages for staff. And we heard from members, we heard from the community, we believe this, that we wanted to improve the compensation for our staff. Problem? So the combination of that has delayed essentially that return to profitability until 2027. So at this point, we are tracking on schedule. We are not concerned about our financials because we have good cash to be able to sustain ourselves until 2027 and beyond. But during the meantime, really our focus has been to stabilize the financials of the co-op. With that said, we recognize that there are different communities that would love City Market to expand in their communities. Winooski certainly is one of them. We've heard some other areas across sort of Greater Burlington and even in other states that have actually asked us to consider expanding. So for the time being, our response is right now we want to still create more stability within these two locations, but we haven't ruled out the fact that at some point, possibly in the next few years, depending on if our trajectory ends up being just as good, if not better, than what we're predicting, that we would certainly look, and Winooski would be one of the first places that we would like to see greater access. And I have spent actually quite a bit of time looking at Winooski, everything from the school system, which I know is a very diverse and very challenging system, but also recognizing its close proximity, because we do have done market studies to see if we were to put a store in a place like Winooski, how much would it possibly take sales away from, let's say, the downtown store. And in Winooski's case, it would take minimal to very little, because there is such a need for a grocery store in Winooski. But great question. Thank you. I think we'll take one last question.
Hi, my name is Stephen Marshall, a member of the community. Are you familiar with Food Not Cops, the mutual aid group that serves lunch behind the garage?
I personally am not. Food Not Cops, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the word I'm hearing is that it's very difficult. So they get a lot of their food from dumpster diving, and they would really, really, really like to be able to get food, discarded food from City Market. Do you think that would be possible?
I think it's possible, at least in terms of exploring conversation. I will say that in terms of food waste for the co-op, I mean, we're very mindful of not wanting to create food waste. And once again, that's part of our environmental commitment as well. And so whenever we look at food that might start getting close to expiration, whether it be in produce or in our meats and such, we then also, we have a very well-established system that works with our prep foods to be able to look at how we might be able to extend the life of that food so it does not go to waste.
So maybe there's not a lot.
Yeah, in addition, we also work closely with, once again, Feeding Chittenden and make product donations pretty frequent because we certainly want to be able to help the food shelf be able to use food that we think might be getting close to. So I'm not saying that we can explore a conversation, but I did want to let the membership know that we are very cognizant of the food waste component.
Of course, and I would just like to advocate for expanding the outreach to a group that is actively feeding people who otherwise don't know where to get lunch or sometimes a meal in a given day, and that the co-op being right across the street could be very helpful to Food Not Cops.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much, and we can talk further. I'm sorry we're going to stop here, but I will definitely find you. We will find you to address your question. But just really want to